Today's Mercedes-Benz interview of the day brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. Celebrate the journeys that bring us closer together. An exclusive offer on a vehicle you'll adore. Mercedes-Benz Holiday Love Celebration. Going on now through January 2nd. Learn more at MBUSA.com/special offers. Hall of Famer. Won a Super Bowl with the Steelers, 15 seasons as head coach. Now one of the star analysts for NFL Today on CBS. He's Bill Cowher, back with us. Who do you get mistaken for on the street?
For myself, actually, people don't believe it's me half the time. So it's like, but I have to ask you a question though. If I send you a bobblehead, do I make your artifacts that you have around you?
Oh,
so
sure.
Would I? So I wasn't just sure because you have, almost like you have this categorized. It looks like a categorized mess.
Yes.
And I used to be, it's kind of like, that's why my desk used to be as well, like when I was coaching.
Yeah, but how can you have a messy desk if you're the coach? You're supposed to be buttoned up.
It looked messy, but it was actually categorized. I knew
Okay.
exactly there were some things that were prioritized more than anything else, but I had to continue to look at it because that always reminded me that there were still things to do.
Yeah, I know where everything is. Now,
Do you?
nobody else knows where everything is, but I
Right.
do. Yeah.
You would know if something was out of
Yes.
place.
Yes. They mess with me sometimes. They'll move things just to see if
Yeah.
I'm aware, and I'm aware. I'm aware.
So I'm gonna send you a bobblehead, and the first thing I want to do is find out somewhere in that categorized mess that you have.
Okay.
I know that I've been placed there, and there's a reason I was placed where I was placed.
All right.
So
I will do
I-
it, but you might have to find it. Like,
I will recognize it only when I recognize it after I come on.
okay.
I will then ask you in the course of answering a question that you may have, which we will do this shortly. I will then ask you the reason why I was placed there.
Okay. But you don't get mistaken for anybody, like any famous person,
No.
actor.
No, it's funny though, Dan. It's funny because when I came to New York and I walked down the street and I would walk in and they would stop me and they'd say, "Hey, well, aren't you?" And they would just, I know you. Do I know you? I go, yeah. I said, football? I go, no. They go, no. Oh, you're that Time Warner cable guy. I go, so I was a Time Warner cable guy for a couple years. I go, football? I go, no, not football. You're that Time Warner cable guy. I go, well, yeah, I am. I was. But the reason I'm the Time Warner cable guy is because of football. Okay, so I was mistaken for that Time Warner cable guy.
I love that. What's your philosophy on the Buccaneers at the end of the game going for
Yes.
2 on the road?
No, you know what? I go back and it's so funny because I thought about this last night and I think about it again this morning. Is Marty Schottenheimer, who was my mentor, he always said to me, when it comes down to making a decision, don't think of plays, think of players. And so I'm okay with what took place. I mean, I think from
Okay.
Todd's standpoint, I've watched it down through the years, and you talk about go for 2, but the 2-point play. Keep in mind the success rate this year is like 31%. So it doesn't really make sense to do that. Now, I understand Patrick Mahomes being on the other side would make you think, do you want to give him a chance in overtime if you don't get the coin flip? So those things come up, and we saw Mahomes do it against the 49ers in the Super Bowl. We saw him again do it last night. But at the same time, you also have to believe in your own football team and give them a chance. Again, let the players dictate it, not your decisions.
So if you had your wide receivers, who you're missing, Evans
Yeah.
and Godwin, would you have been more likely to then go for the 2-point conversion?
No, because I think he believed in his defense as well. I think number one, let's let this thing get in overtime. And again, if I had those receivers, now we're coming down to a coin flip. And I think the biggest thing I would just say, I think you want to revisit again. I know that you let them score a touchdown. Just that having both teams have a chance to touch the ball in overtime, to me. And I know that what we have is fair. You got to play defense too, but man, if you have 2 offensive football teams that are built and going, and wouldn't you want to see them both touch the ball, even if the first one's a touchdown? So that's the only thing I would just say about that.
I can't let Mahomes have the ball. I got a chance. I got to kill him. I do.
I know.
I
hear you.
You're at the 2. You may not get back down there, and I know that he's going to get back down there. I got to kill him. Can't do it. But doesn't it feel? I don't know if this feels the same way with you, Bill. They feel almost underdog-ish Like everybody's caught up in the Lions. They're scoring points. Like the Chiefs, it's like, man, they're barely getting by. They
I
don't,
know.
and they're undefeated.
They're comfortable in close games. I mean, I think you look at them and think about the people they're doing this with. Travis Kelce, we all said he was getting too old. He's too slow. He's too worried about going to Taylor Swift's concerts. He had 10 catches last night. Kareem Hunt was on the street. Nobody wanted him as a running back. I mean, with Cleveland last year, you think they wouldn't want him back? And Kareem Hunt, he's been there before. DeAndre Hopkins, what did they give up for him? Like a 5th or 6th round pick? These guys were all integral parts of that. They come in and they just keep plugging it in, and they're going to get some guys back. Pacheco's going to come back at some point in this season. Andy does a masterful job. Steve Spagnuolo, I think, is one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. But they have a quarterback that is very comfortable in close games, very comfortable in the fourth quarter, and and they just continue to do it week in, week out. And they're playing on the edge, but because they're playing on the edge, they keep that edginess week in and week out. They don't get comfortable.
We're talking to Bill Cowher, the Hall of Famer, Sergeant Slaughter, the wrestler.
Yeah, you're right. I do get that. Yeah, you're right. Sergeant Slaughter. Yeah.
I knew it was going to come to me.
I knew. You're right. I did. Yes, it was.
Sergeant.
I have. Yes. They actually, I think Sergeant Slaughter, I mean, I think God bless him. I said Sergeant Slaughter, but I think they actually said, aren't you Bill Cowher? So I think we both got it both ways. So
I think it was Dominic Foxworth on ESPN who said it felt like the Bills were easing up on Tua. And I don't know if you can, and Dominic's former defensive back, I don't know if you can go into a game thinking about how you're going to hit Tua Tagovailoa. Does that seem viable, real?
I mean, no. I mean, but I think it's there. I mean, I think we all have a great respect for Tua with what he's done. And I think when the heat of battle comes and you get down to it, I think early on maybe that'd be the case. But the longer he plays, the more it's going to be like just like any other football game. But I could see that being in the back of your mind, and particularly when he starts running forward, he's going to go down. He's not trying to run over you. So I think at that point it's almost out of the respect for the game. And I think that's true with the way we're coaching the game with some of these guys, the quarterbacks, and they can give themselves up. And I think that you're seeing that not just with Tua, with a lot of quarterbacks.
If the Chiefs play the Lions today for the Super Bowl, who would you pick?
I think the Detroit Lions right now, I think they're, I think them and I mean, listen, I think the Chiefs and Baltimore. If you don't dismiss the Baltimore Ravens, and I look at them and the Lions to me as the top two teams. I know the Chiefs are right there, and the record says they are. But I think if those three teams are in a league by themselves, to be honest with you, I think Buffalo is the fourth team in that.
Okay.
But Detroit Lions right now, if they play the Kansas City Chiefs, I just like the Detroit Lions they're a very physical football team. I think they got the best offensive line of football. I think they got a coach who exemplifies what they're all about. I think Aaron Glenn has done a masterful job. They just got Zadarius Smith in the trade, I think this morning or yesterday, whatever. I just saw that. So they're going to get better and better. And they're a team that just wears you down, and they impose themselves on you. But again, I don't know. If it's the fourth quarter, and you got Patrick Mahomes got the ball, I'll take the Chiefs.
He's morphed into the Tom Brady category. There's time on the clock. Tom has the ball. The question is, how is he going to score a touchdown or the game-winning field goal?
And I think the thing that he does, I mean, he does it with his legs. He does with the extending of plays. It's the play after the play, as I know Bill Belichick talked about that before, talking about defending against him. And because there's the initial play, but then if he doesn't like it, he extends it. And he has that sixth sense with Kelce, and everybody else has a sense of where to get to open spaces, and he can see the field. His vision to the field is so unique to any other quarterback. His poise, his calmness, knowing when to take off and run, and also when to throw it. And again, you'll see him take off more in the fourth quarter of games if the game's on the line as opposed to the first three quarters. So his decision-making, feel for the game, second to none.
Who was the quarterback that you'd have nightmares or you'd wake up middle of the night if you were going to face?
Be honest with you, it was Peyton Manning. I mean, because it's like we had to work all week on making sure that we did not show him the defense. So we had disguise was everything because if he saw the defense before 10, we used to use the 10-second rule. We figured at 10 seconds, at that point, you can probably get into it, maybe around 9 or 8 seconds. He didn't have time to change the play. But if they snapped the ball early, we were running to spots that we had to get to because we were in a disguise mode the entire time. So, I mean, I think it led because we played him so many times. It led to Troy Polamalu feeling like he could do that against anybody. I said, no, just Peyton Manning. I said we don't have to keep doing this to everybody else. So, disguise was a big thing. But Dan, I always, as a defensive minded coach, I wanted to show you one thing and do another, and I wanted to create some indecision with you on the offensive side of the ball where all of a sudden it's not what I thought it was going to be because the pre-snap information that you give to a quarterback, particularly a good quarterback, they know where the weakness. Every defense has a weakness. And if you give a good quarterback that information before the ball snapped, they'll go there every time. So he was a guy to me that you can't show him anything. So you're talking about you just prepare differently against Peyton Manning than everybody else.
But he knows that you're doing this. He knows you're disguising. He knows
right.
What you're showing me is not what you're going to run.
Which is why sometimes we showed him exactly what we were going to do. So I said, so you almost had to play that. You played that mind game with him. Like, no, you can't always disguise. Sometimes it was like play it. We used to call play it, which means show it. Because everything else we did, we had ingrained disguise, play it, just play it, show it and play it.
That has to be frustrating. Here you are, defensive-minded guy. You're over there on the sidelines. You call something or something's being called, and then you watch Peyton basically tell you, I know what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, and then I said, okay, we showed it too quick. We could stay, it's almost like I said, even if you're late getting there, I'd rather you be late. I'd let him okay, let's give it up. I mean, we had guys running, every ball was snapped. They had people going places. We had people going things. It looked like just a bunch of pieces moving like in that. And it was like a moving piece of art unfolding before your eyes.
I don't know if you were the coach. I think the Steelers had a defensive back or got a defensive back, and he knew one of Peyton's signals. He had played with Peyton, and then he was telling everybody, hey, when he does this, it means this. And then Peyton called that. And then Peyton did something different and scored a touchdown.
Right. I mean, and he used to call Omaha, and I used to think when he started calling a lot of different signals, it was like whatever he's pointing to people, and people start pointing like, okay, protect him. I'm going, they're going to run the football. He's not protecting anybody. They're there. I go, when he starts pointing to people, like, oh yeah, if this guy comes with that kind of, I go, it's not even going to be a pass. It's the other. You play the game on the other side too. There's a lot of like little parts of the game. The art of the craft is to kind of try to mislead people with what you're doing prior to the snap.
The Steelers, how are they looking?
They look good. I'll tell you, this is a big game. I think when you think about them going against the Washington Commanders, both these teams, ironically, Washington with Philadelphia right on their heels. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, right there, and they both play the team that they're holding off next week. So it's a very defining game. I think when you look at who Washington has beaten, you look who Pittsburgh has beaten. It'll be interesting to see them go against each other. Jaden Daniels, obviously, I think running away with Rookie of the Year. I think Russell Wilson falling into this offense right now and feeling comfortable with each week. We'll see what happens today. I know they're looking to try to get another receiver to go with George Pickens, and the defense of the Pittsburgh Steelers has been solid. TJ Watt, I think, is his numbers may not be up there, but he has won more games in the fourth quarter with big plays. I think he's still the defensive player of the year when it's all going to be all said and done. They're solid in every phase. I mean, they got the kickers. I think the best kicker in the game. But this will be a very defining game. Probably the toughest team they faced all year.
Yeah, I'm wondering. Having TJ is such a weapon. How do you use him differently at the end of a game?
I think at the end of the game, you let him get back to where he's comfortable. And I think that's the biggest thing with him. I think he's one of those guys you say, okay, well, they're going to put two people over there. Let's drop him in the coverage so we can get more people off the other side. But you know what? What does he do best? When you give him the freedom to have a feel for the game and let him be able to do what he has to do. You know, he was like Kevin, and I never had the opportunity, but it's like Troy Polamalu. Like, you don't want to harness a guy like that.
Oh,
And you
you
don't
were
want
going
to
to
let
say
them.
Kevin Green? That was the other guy?
No, I was Kevin Green. And Greg Lloyd was that type of guy. Greg Lloyd was a guy you moved around. You wanted to get him to be where he was able to rush the quarterback. That's what he did best. Ideally, you like to get him in a one-on-one situation, and that was the thing we try to do, is move him around to get him a one-on-one situation. You see TJ sometimes go to the left side, or to the right side, but he's a left defensive end, and if he uses up two guys, then you want to be able to have the complementary guy on the other side. They got that in High Smith right now. He's back playing. So I just think with a guy like TJ, don't try to do too much. Let him be himself. Let him get comfortable and give him the freedom to really to make plays, and don't try to harness him.
More likely to have another Lawrence Taylor or another Reggie White?
Well, Lawrence Taylor, I mean, TJ's like a Lawrence Taylor. I mean, Lawrence Taylor, I had Derek Thomas in Kansas City, and Derek Thomas was one of those types of guys. And Reggie White, though, to me, to be quite honest with you, I think he's the greatest defensive player to ever play the game. And Reggie White, you can line him up outside. You can line him up over the center. And they did that a lot. And Reggie White was one of those guys that you just put him on the straightest path to the quarterback, which is like put him inside, because he's going to run over anybody that's in front of him. And he'll get there quicker than the guy from the outside. But I think Reggie White, to me, is still, to me, the greatest defensive player who's ever played the
game. Yeah. I'm right there with you. It's just people tell stories. I got to see Lawrence Taylor and Reggie White play in person.
Yeah.
I've never seen somebody come off the edge like Lawrence Taylor.
No, I used to sit there and take Derek Thomas, and it's funny, Dan. I said, Derek, if you could play the run like Lawrence Taylor plays run, like, you both are great pass rushers, but Lawrence played the run. Lawrence he could go across the tight end's face. He'd go into that backfield. He could take out two blockers and still make the tackle. He played the run as passionately as he rushed the quarterback. And so he was that type of guy that, again, another guy, if he was supposed to drop, he would rush. And sometimes with Derek, I would call defense, and I'd say, Derek, you were supposed to drop. He goes, Coach, why would I drop? I can get to the quarterback before he can get to. I go, but what if he throws in a flat? And he goes, I'll get there before he gets his chance to throw it to the flat. I go, all right, okay. Again, great players, giving them the freedom to let them express themselves and make sure the other guys around them understand that, like, he's a special player and he's going to make all of us better. Well, how are we going to know what he's going to do? No one knows what he's going to do. And if we don't know what he's going to do, how's the offense going to know what he's going to do? Just have to be ready to cover up for when he does something he probably shouldn't be doing.
Great to talk to you, Coach. I'll look forward to the bobblehead. I'll place it strategically in front of me.
And I'll come back next month, and I'll make sure I find out somewhere in that compartmentalized mess that you have. Yep. I want to know the reason behind why I was placed where I was placed.
Absolutely. I'm on it.
Okay.
Thank you, Coach.
All right.
That's Bill Cowher, Hall of Famer. We'll take a break. Phone calls coming up. And do we have done or not done?
Don't. It's teams that are done.
Oh, done.
And I'm back in. All new segment. I'm back in.
Okay. And phone calls coming up after this.